Black Cube Productions 2022. I'm your host, Roger Cluton, alongside my co-host, Cassie Cluton. Welcome back, truth seekers, to another deep dive into the hidden architecture of reality. Before we get into it, if this content resonates with you, hit that like button, share this episode, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss what we uncover. Tonight's episode is one we've been building toward for a long time. If you're new here, buckle up. And if you're a returning listener, you already know, nothing is what it seems.
And I mean that in the most literal sense possible, Roger. Tonight we are going into territory that most people, most mainstream thinkers, would call fringe, would call conspiracy, would call dangerous. But here at Black Cube, we call it necessary.
Necessary. That's the word. Because what we're talking about tonight touches every single human being on this planet. It touches your past lives, your present life, and if we don't wake up, your future lives. We're talking about the soul recycling system, the reincarnation trap, the matrix prison, and the reptilian intelligence that, according to a growing body of researchers, ancient texts, and whistleblower testimony, has been running this operation for over 1 million years.
Over 1 million years, Roger. Let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a government program. We're not talking about a corporation. We're talking about a non-human intelligence that has been farming human souls, harvesting our energy, our emotions, our very life force across countless lifetimes. And most of us have no idea it's happening.
No idea, because the system is designed that way. The amnesia is built in. Every time you die, every time your soul leaves the physical body, what many researchers call the meat suit, you are funneled back into the cycle, wiped clean, reset, and sent back in, none the wiser.
And that's where we need to start tonight. Let's lay the foundation. Roger, talk to me about the reptilian beings. Who are they? Where do they come from? Because I think a lot of people hear reptilian and they immediately think lizard people in suits, right? They think it's a joke.
Right, and that's exactly the reaction the system wants you to have. Ridicule is a control mechanism. But when you actually go into the research, and I'm talking about David Icke's decades of work, Wes Penray's papers, the Nag Hammadi library, Sumerian cuneiform tablets, a very consistent picture emerges. These beings are described across virtually every ancient culture on Earth. The Anunnaki of Sumeria, the Archons of Gnostic tradition, the Chitauri in Zulu cosmology, the Nagas in Hindu and Buddhist texts, serpent beings, dragon beings, beings of immense intelligence and cold, calculating intent.
And what's so striking to me, Roger, is the consistency. You've got cultures that had zero contact with each other, separated by oceans, by thousands of years, and they're all describing the same thing. Serpentine, non-human intelligences that came from somewhere else, that interfered with humanity, that set themselves up as gods.
And not benevolent gods. That's the key distinction. These are not creator beings in the loving sense. According to the Gnostic texts, particularly the texts found at Nag Hammadi in 1945, the Archons are described as a kind of cosmic mistake, beings that lack the divine spark, the pneuma, the soul essence that humans carry. And because they lack it, they are obsessed with it. They feed on it. They need it.
John Lash does incredible work on this. His research into the Nag Hammadi texts, particularly in his book Not in His Image, really unpacks the Gnostic understanding of the Archons. And what he describes is essentially a parasitic intelligence, beings that cannot create original life, but can imitate it, can simulate it. And they've built a simulation, a false reality to keep us trapped.
The Matrix. And I want to be clear here, we're not just talking about a movie metaphor here. The Gnostics were describing this thousands of years ago. The material world, the physical realm, was understood by the Gnostics as a prison, a counterfeit creation. The demiurge, the false god, created this lower realm as a trap for divine souls, and the Archons are his administrators, his enforcers.
And the meat suit, the physical body, is the cell, right? That's the prison cell. You incarnate into a body, you forget everything, you get caught up in survival, in emotion, in desire, in fear, all of which generate the exact energetic frequencies these beings feed on.
Loosh. That's the term Robert Monroe coined, the researcher who pioneered out-of-body experience research. Loosh is the emotional energy that humans generate, particularly through suffering, fear, grief, and conflict. And Monroe himself, through his astral travels, encountered non-human intelligences that were, in his words, farming this energy from humanity.
And when you connect that to what Wes Penray writes about in his Wes Penray papers, this massive body of research, he describes a system where the soul, after physical death, is intercepted. It doesn't just float free into some higher dimension. It gets caught, it gets processed, and it gets sent back.
The tunnel of light. This is so important because almost every near-death experience account describes the same thing. You leave the body, you see a beautiful white light, you feel drawn toward it, you feel love and peace radiating from it. And the mainstream spiritual community says, go to the light. That's the way home. But what if that light is the trap?
What if the light is the on-ramp back into the recycling system?
Exactly. Wes Penray argues, and this is backed up by a surprising amount of cross-cultural and esoteric evidence, that the tunnel of light is a construct, a manufactured lure. And when the soul enters it, it is brought before what many near-death experiencers describe as a life review. Beings of light who show you your life, make you feel guilt, make you feel like you need to come back and do better. And then you're sent back in, reincarnated, wiped, reset, and sent back in, none the wiser.
And that's what gets me, Roger. The beings in the life review, the ones who look like angels or deceased relatives or figures of light, Penray and others suggest these are archontic constructs, holographic projections designed to manipulate the soul into consenting to reincarnation. Because consent matters, even in their system. They need your agreement.
That's a profound point. The soul has sovereignty, it has power, and the system cannot force you back, not entirely. It has to trick you. It has to manufacture consent through guilt, through love, through the illusion that you have unfinished business, karma to resolve, lessons to learn, all of it designed to keep you cycling back into the farm.
The karma trap. Oh, this one really gets under my skin, Roger, because karma has been sold to us as this beautiful cosmic justice system, right? You do good, good comes back. You do harm, you pay for it next life. It sounds fair. It sounds spiritual. But what if karma is just another control mechanism? What if it's the guilt program that keeps you coming back?
David Icke has talked about this extensively. The idea that karma, as it's been handed down through religious and spiritual traditions, has been deliberately distorted. The original understanding of karma was about cause and effect in the present moment, not a cosmic debt that chains your soul across lifetimes. The reincarnation as spiritual progress narrative is, in Icke's view, a hijacked teaching, inserted into human spiritual systems to make the trap feel like a gift.
Make the cage look like a school. Make the prison look like a journey of growth. And you'll walk back in willingly, every single time.
Every single time. For 1,000,000 years, across thousands of lifetimes, generating loosh, feeding the machine, and never, ever remembering enough to break the cycle.
So let's talk about the ancient evidence, because I think this is where it gets really compelling. We've mentioned the Gnostic texts, the Sumerian tablets. What else are we looking at?
The evidence is everywhere once you know what you're looking for. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is really a manual for navigating the afterlife, contains specific instructions for the soul on how to avoid certain traps, how to answer certain gatekeepers, how to assert its divine nature and pass through without being detained. The ancient Egyptians knew. They were encoding this knowledge into their funerary texts.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead does something very similar. It's essentially a guide for the dying, read aloud to the deceased, instructing the soul on what it will encounter in the bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. And it specifically warns about being drawn into lower realms, about being deceived by peaceful and wrathful deities that are projections of your own mind, or, we might say, projections of the archontic system.
And then you've got the Sumerian texts, the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the stories of the Anunnaki, beings who came from the heavens, who genetically engineered humanity, who created us as a slave race to mine gold, to serve, to worship. Zechariah Sitchin's translations, whatever you think of the specifics, opened a door that cannot be closed. The idea that humanity was created as a resource, not as a beloved child of the cosmos, but as a product, that idea is right there in the oldest written records on Earth.
And it maps perfectly onto what the Gnostics were saying. The demiurge creates humanity as a vessel for the divine spark, the soul, that he himself cannot generate. He traps the light inside the matter, and then the archons maintain the system that keeps that light imprisoned, keeps it generating energy, keeps it feeding the lower realms.
It's a closed loop, a self-sustaining farm. And the genius of it, the terrifying genius, is that the prisoners maintain the prison themselves, through their beliefs, through their religions, through their fear of death, through their attachment to the physical world. We are, in a very real sense, complicit in our own captivity.
Until we wake up. And that's where I want to go now, Roger, because I don't want this episode to just be a horror show. I want people to leave here feeling empowered, because the whole point of understanding the trap is to get out of it. So let's talk about that. How do we break free?
Soul sovereignty. That's the foundation. The recognition, the deep embodied recognition that you are a sovereign being. That your soul is not the property of any system, any god, any entity, any construct. You did not consent to be farmed, and you can withdraw that consent. But first, you have to know the game is being played.
Awareness is the first step, and I know that sounds almost too simple, but it's profound. The moment you genuinely understand, not just intellectually, but in your bones, that this reality is a managed construct, that your emotions are being harvested, that the system profits from your fear and your suffering, something shifts. You stop feeding it in the same way.
You stop being a reactive generator of loosh, and you start becoming a conscious navigator of energy. And that's where practices like meditation become genuinely revolutionary, not just as stress relief, not just as mindfulness, but as a tool for raising your vibrational frequency above the range that the archontic system can easily access and manipulate.
The frequency piece is so important. These beings, and this is consistent across the research, operate in a lower vibrational bandwidth. Fear, anger, grief, shame, guilt, these are low frequency states. And when you're locked in those states, you're essentially broadcasting on their channel. You are accessible. You are harvestable.
But when you cultivate states of genuine love, not sentimental, not needy love, but the high-frequency, unconditional, expansive love that the mystics talk about, when you cultivate joy, gratitude, compassion, inner stillness, you are operating at a frequency that is, in a very real sense, out of their reach. You become less useful to the farm.
And the astral awareness piece. This is something Wes Penray writes about extensively, developing awareness of the astral realm, of what happens during sleep, during meditation, during the hypnagogic state between waking and sleeping. Because the archontic system doesn't just operate on us in waking life. It operates on us in the dream state, in the astral, and most people are completely unaware and unprotected in those states.
Lucid dreaming, astral projection, conscious out-of-body experience. These are not just interesting parlor tricks. They are training grounds for the soul. They are ways of developing the awareness and the navigational skill that you will need at the moment of death, when the real test comes, when the tunnel of light appears, and you have to have the presence of mind, the clarity, the sovereignty to say, no, not this time. I know what you are. I know what this is, and I am not going back.
That moment, that single moment of clarity at the threshold of death, that is what all of this preparation is for. And it requires practice. It requires intention. You can't just decide on your deathbed that you're going to break free. You have to build that muscle now, in this life, in this body.
Meditation is the gym. Daily practice, sitting in stillness, learning to observe your thoughts without being consumed by them, learning to feel your emotions without being enslaved by them, learning to access that deep, quiet place inside you that is not the body, not the personality, not the programmed identity, but the actual soul, the actual you.
And questioning everything. Every belief system, every religious teaching, every spiritual tradition, with not cynicism, not with the attitude that nothing is true, but with discernment, asking, does this teaching empower my soul, or does it create dependency? Does it expand my awareness, or does it narrow it? Does it lead me towards sovereignty, or towards submission?
Because the archontic system has infiltrated every major religion. Every major spiritual tradition has been touched, distorted, redirected. The original teachings, the Gnostic Gospels, the mystery school wisdom, the shamanic traditions, these teachings pointed toward direct experience of the divine, toward personal sovereignty, toward the recognition of the divine spark within. And those teachings were systematically suppressed, burned, outlawed, ridiculed.
The burning of the Library of Alexandria, the persecution of the Gnostics, the Inquisition, the suppression of indigenous wisdom traditions. There is a pattern, a very deliberate pattern of destroying any knowledge that could lead humanity toward genuine liberation.
But it didn't all get destroyed. The Nag Hammadi texts survived. The Tibetan teachings survived. The shamanic traditions survived. The researchers, Ike, Penray, Lash, Monroe, and so many others have been piecing it back together. And we are living in a moment right now in 2022 where more people are waking up to this than at any previous point in recorded history.
And that's not an accident either. There are cycles, cosmic cycles that the ancient traditions all speak of, ages of consciousness, and we may be at the turning point of one of those cycles, a moment where the veil is thinner, where the frequency of the planet itself is rising, where the conditions for mass awakening are, for the first time in a very long time, actually present.
Which is exactly why the control system is pushing so hard right now. The surveillance, the division, the manufactured fear, the constant bombardment of low-frequency stimuli. It's not random. It's a response. The farm's trying to keep its livestock from jumping the fence.
And the more you understand that, the less power it has over you, because you stop reacting and you start responding. You stop being a passive recipient of the program and you start being an active, conscious, sovereign being who is choosing deliberately, intentionally, what frequencies to embody, what realities to feed with your attention and your energy.
Your attention is currency. Your energy is food, and you get to decide who you feed. That is the most radical act of rebellion available to a human being in this system. Not protest, not politics, not fighting the machine on its own terms, but withdrawing your energetic consent, starving the system by refusing to generate the frequencies it feeds on.
And filling that space with something real, with genuine connection, with creativity, with love, with the kind of deep, quiet joy that comes from knowing who you actually are, a sovereign soul, temporarily housed in a meat suit, on a planet that is itself waking up.
Temporarily. That's the key word. This body is temporary. This life is temporary. But the soul, your soul, is not. And the choices you make in this life, the awareness you cultivate, the sovereignty you claim, that goes with you. That is the work that matters. Not the career, not the status, not the accumulation. The inner work, the soul work.
So, as we start to bring this episode home, Roger, let's give our listeners something concrete. If someone is hearing this for the first time and they're feeling that resonance, that deep gut feeling that says, yes, this is real, this matters, what are the first steps?
Step 1, research. Go to the sources. Read the Nag Hammadi texts. Read Wes Penray's papers. They're free online, all of them. Read David Icke's work, particularly The Biggest Secret and Phantom Self. Read John Lash's Not in His Image. Read Robert Monroe's Journeys Out of the Body. Let the information in. Let it challenge you. Let it disturb you if it needs to. That discomfort is your programming being questioned.
Step 2. Meditate every day, even 10 minutes. Sit in stillness. Breathe. Learn to access the observer, the part of you that watches thoughts without being the thoughts. That is your soul peeking through the meat suit. Get familiar with that presence. Strengthen it.
Step 3. Monitor your emotional state. Not to suppress your emotions, feel them fully, but become aware of which states you're spending the most time in. Are you living in fear, in anger, in resentment? Those are the feeding frequencies. Work consciously, deliberately to shift toward higher states. Gratitude, compassion, wonder, peace.
Step 4. Develop astral awareness. Pay attention to your dreams. Keep a dream journal. Explore lucid dreaming practices. Begin to develop a relationship with your consciousness outside the body, because that is where the real navigation happens, and you want to be practiced, not panicked, when the time comes.
And step 5, and this is the big one, make a decision, a clear, conscious, intentional decision about what you will do at the moment of death. Declare your sovereignty now, out loud if you need to. State your intention. I am a sovereign soul. I do not consent to recycling. I do not consent to memory wipe. I do not consent to reincarnation without full conscious awareness and genuine free choice. I am going home to the true source, beyond this construct, beyond this matrix.
That declaration matters. Intention matters. The soul hears it, and when the moment comes, when you're standing at that threshold and the light is beckoning, you'll have something to hold on to. A compass, a knowing, a choice that you made with full awareness, in full sovereignty while you were still in the body.
This is the work of our time. This is why Black Cube Productions exists. Not to frighten you, not to make you feel hopeless or helpless, but to hand you the map. To say, here is the territory, here is the trap, here is the door, and here is the key. What you do with it is entirely up to you.
And we are right here with you. Every episode, every deep dive, every uncomfortable truth, we are walking this path alongside you, because none of us gets out alone. We wake up together, or we cycle together, and we choose to wake up.
We choose to wake up. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for having the courage to listen, to question, to seek. This has been Black Cube Productions 2022. I'm Roger Cluton.
And I'm Cassie Cluton. Stay sovereign, stay aware, and we will see you on the other side of the veil next time.
Until then, don't go to the light.